Hello, Kylie. Welcome to the Soul Dive. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, Lebo. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's really exciting to be here.
How's your day been so far? Oh my goodness, it's hot in East London, hey?
Yes, it's been quite busy, but today we've got a lot of wind out here. So one of my pot plants blew over, so I've been
Oh my
sweeping.
goodness.
You know what they say, before enlightenment, chop wood and collect water, and after enlightenment, chop wood and collect water. So just doing the normal stuff.
That's actually very, very true. Well, Soul Divers, I want to introduce you to Kylie. Kylie is a kinesiologist. Now, it's a long word to say, and she's going to explain to us what that means just now. And the reason we have her on the show is actually to have one of those deep conversations because she's a healer. And of course, as a healer, you very much involved right now with people just like, everybody's feeling a little bit like the sky is falling. So healers all have a lot to actually offer us at the moment. And of course, we're going to have a wonderful conversation about the art of starting over.
Which I must confess I'm really good at. I've done it 3 times.
Me too, me too. I think that's one of the things in life. You get good at starting over. It's like a prerequisite, really. Hey?
Well, I read a book because I'm a fanatic of reading. You can see I have a bookshelf behind me by a gentleman called Malcolm Gladwell. And it's called The Tipping Point, and he talks about putting in your 10,000 hours. So he talks about the fact that the Beatles practiced in nondescript bars and stuff like that for their 10,000 hours before they became famous. But nobody ever realizes just how much work goes into it beforehand. And then I used to beat myself up about that because I felt like, I've never put 10,000 hours into anything in particular to get really, really good at it. And so for a long time, I beat myself up about that. And it's like, I've never stuck to anything long enough. You know how the talk goes on in the head. And then I read another article by an author called Michael Neal, and he talked about how the 10,000 hours is not appropriate for our modern day time.
No.
And when I read that, that was like just this awakening and this weight just like lifted off my shoulders. And then it clicked. My 10,000 hours is invested in my ability to change.
But also, the fact that the 10,000 hours doesn't have to be in one thing. It's actually your spiritual journey, your growth, your ability to do the things that you hopefully will help others be able to do. If you keep needing to start over, you get good at it and you start being able to recognize some of the breadcrumbs that you can actually share with others and say, okay, when you see this happening, then it means you're close to this time or you peaking or whatever, or change is coming and stuff like that. And you're never going to be able to teach people that or to guide people through that if you've had the same job for 30 years and done exactly the same things for 30 years. And I mean, no, that's unrealistic. My goodness. Talk to us a little bit about a couple of your start overs that you had to do.
Yeah. And I believe that that's a whole part of my journey is that I had to, like you said, go through all of those. So I started out like really in the beginning working for the SPCA because of my love for animals, and then decided it was time to get a grown-up job. So I studied fashion design and then moved into retail. And that just eventually, you kind of recognize the signs when it's time to go because it became difficult. I was fighting with everybody and,
feeling that chronic dissatisfaction.
Yes. And I had been living an extremely destructive lifestyle while in retail, working like 7 days a week, 14 hours a day. And then I got into the alcohol and the pills and just to try and numb out all of the emotions that I didn't want to deal with.
Yeah.
And eventually a friend of mine actually a really good friend of mine committed suicide. And that made me stop and say, is this it? Is there any more to life than this constant chasing the money and this constant search for perfection? The hair had to be exactly right and the nails.
Fashion, hello.
Yes. And I was
Yeah.
like, no, come on, there has to be something more.
Yeah.
And then I suddenly just started attracting all of these engineers and project managers and quantity surveyors. And that made me understand that I was back in flow with the universe and being
Mm.
guided towards the engineering, because I just started meeting so many civil engineers.
Have you realized that engineering is very much a loner kind of thing? Because you've got to go within yourself and like sort of work these diagrams and stuff. So there's a lot more separation from others that you do. It's almost like the other side of the coin of being in fashion and retail and
Retail.
people all the time and stuff.
Yeah.
And now you switched to that.
Yeah. But then I also went back to school. So it was
Mm.
almost like I always told people that going back to school was like redoing my childhood, but this time it was on my terms. So I couldn't blame anybody for not getting the piano lessons, not getting the surf lessons, not getting the hip hop classes, you know. And I worked in engineering for about 12 years.
Yeah.
Again, there I got retrenched like twice in the space of 2 years. So
Wow.
for me, that was the universal messages giving me the shove and saying, look, it's now time for another direction. But prior to being retrenched, I started with the kinesiology. So I started working with my kinesiologist who helped
Yeah.
me uncover.
What feelings drew you to go to your kinesiologist and go, okay, let's work some of the stuff out? What were you feeling? What were you yearning for at that time?
Nothing had changed for me personally. You know, I changed physically, externally.
Yeah.
I changed jobs, I changed towns, but all of the stuff that was happening, all the thinking, all of the feelings inside was still the same.
Oh, so
And
much of that you run away, but you take yourself with you. Oopsie. Okay.
always,
Yeah. Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
I'm a very firm believer that you can change jobs, and some people have done it. You know, you see some people who will change a town, they'll move from like somewhere like East London, they'll end up in Cape Town and they'll drop like 20 kgs. And you're like, how did you do that? And it's because of the change of the environment. So you can do it. But for
Yeah.
me, I was literally carrying my internal baggage with me wherever I went. And
Wow.
it was
Yeah.
the same issues that came up, and I was having the same kinds of fights, and I was encountering the same destructive behavioral
Mm,
patterns within
mm, mm.
myself.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was looking for a sensory deprivation tank, a float tank,
Okay.
because I was a huge fan of the TV series Fringe, because they investigate all of these fringe events.
Mm.
And the main character goes into one of these sensory deprivation tanks so that she can connect to her boyfriend, or I can't remember the storyline exactly. But it just seemed like a really cool idea. You get into this tank, you float on a bed of like salt water.
Shut everything else out. Yeah.
I think the weather as well, Lebo.
It's a lot of wind out there. So no, let's carry on. So you'd gotten interested in this deprivation tank because of the isolation
Yeah.
that you would feel. What did you hope to connect with when you were in there?
I wanted to just switch off. I wanted to unplug from all the stimuli because I just felt at that point in my life extremely overwhelmed by all of everything.
Yeah.
I felt like everything's coming at me. And
Wanted a
I literally
restart
just
button
wanted
of
to switch
sorts.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then Angela had on her website, she had this whole kinesiology tab. And I was like, what on earth? You know, and I was like, clicked on that. And I read all of the information there. And I was like, you know what? I want to try that one. Because I
Okay.
also am very much all about experiences. You know, I want to go to the Drakensberg and experience the Drakensberg. I want to go and snorkel a Japanese shipwreck in Bali. And so it was kinesiology, and I wanted to experience it. But
Okay.
I, in hindsight, believe that I was guided towards the
Yes.
kinesiology because in working with Angela, I recognized how quickly my life shifted. I'd previously worked with a therapist for
Mm.
about 5 years,
Okay.
and I worked with a soul coach for about 2 years. And they definitely peeled back the layers, but it was very slow. And with the kinesiology, my life shifted in like 6 months. And I was like, I have got to get me some of this.
So tell us now, without going too deep into the technicals, what actually happens in a kinesiology session? You've kind of briefed me what you felt like to feel you needed, but what actually happens in such a session? I know I've been, but like, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really very easy. People, because it's kinesiology and we don't know what it is, we have no idea of what the experience is going to be, but it's really very simple. Um, you come there, you chat with me, and then we have a conversation about what's going on for you in your life at the moment and what it is that you would like to work with. And then once we've established the goal for the session, we don't always have to work with a goal. We can work with just an issue. But if you
Yeah.
have a goal specifically, then you word it, and we word it together according to our conversation. And then if we were in person, you would lie on a massage table, and I would use a technique called muscle testing.
Okay.
So the easiest way to explain muscle testing and to visually sort of describe it, you see the first digit on your finger over here. If you just take your thumb and you just rub in the direction of your palm,
Okay.
and then you say, "Show me yes,"
Show me yes.
and then feel the sensation, and then say, "Show me no."
Show me no.
Do you feel the difference?
No. Should it be my right hand? Okay, let's do that again. Let's do. I
Okay.
did see that my thumb suddenly got extremely excited with the yes, but like with the no, I was just like, okay, what are you falling asleep? So let's do it again.
Okay. So if you just rub the first portion
Yeah.
of this the finger
Okay.
and like you do it pretty quick and you say show me yes,
Show me yes. Yeah, that's
what
pretty much it.
sensation do you feel?
It's not a sensation more than it's just like my thumb is just like all excited now.
Okay. So show me
Yeah.
no.
Show me no. It's almost heavy. It's a
You
heaviness.
see, and
Yeah.
that's muscle testing. So for
Wow.
most
Mm.
people, that the show me yes would be a smooth sort of feeling, and then the
Okay.
show me no would be more of an abrasive feeling, which is restrictive.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And we can even do muscle testing because that's the simplest way to do muscle testing if you're in a public space. But if you want to
Yeah.
get a big feel for it, if you stand vertically and you say, show me no, show me yes, your body will automatically fall forward. And you say, show me no. So your body is like a pendulum. You say,
Yeah.
show me no, and your body will fall backwards.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. It is fascinating stuff.
yeah.
Wow. I know energy healing is becoming more and more mainstream, if you will, because people are realizing that our sort of health, our public health and all of that secular health is about treating illnesses, where energy healing is about treating the person to prevent illnesses and that type of thing.
Correct.
I want you to talk to me a little bit about you know first of all what you are doing right now with regards to your clients. I mean, this is something that obviously you do mostly in presence, like in physical presence. How is it working now with remote work?
It has just exploded my client base. It really has. I was very nervous about doing the online stuff because I'm like, how can this possibly work? Because I'm old school. So it has to be
Yeah.
you and me in a room together, and I must be able to touch you.
Mm.
And so I got very, very nervous about doing it. And then part of my qualification was that I have to do case studies. So I
Okay.
asked for volunteers and I got 3 ladies, and we now work on Zoom. We work online, and
Yeah.
basically we have a conversation with each other. And then, same as it would be in person.
Yeah.
And then instead of testing the person, I surrogate their energy with my body and I test myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
And
must be
then
quite heavy on your body. I mean, as already an empath that can feel for other people's,
mm,
energies and pains and feelings and stuff.
It doesn't, hey, because you know what, at the end of the day, I'm just a vessel and I'm just here to bring the message to you. So the energy flows through me. That's what I mean by that.
Okay.
It
Okay. Yeah.
flows. So the same with the surrogating, the energy flows through me. And if it's like a heavy energy or the person is depressed and they're going through a really tough time, that energy flows back out through me and it flows in, it flows
To the
through me
ether.
and
Yeah.
out.
Okay.
It doesn't
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't hold on to the energy.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What have you been finding that people are battling with right now as we are going through the continuing pandemic? Did you find it funny that people thought, okay, when 2020 is finished, we're all gonna just be like miraculously in 2021, all our troubles will be gone?
I wish, I mean, we have that because we're taught that perception from TV, the magical genie. You have three wishes and your wish is my command. And then it's like a click of the finger and ping, the pumpkin is turned into a carriage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the biggest thing people that I'm dealing with in terms of the clients that I'm working with at the moment is the stress that they're under. Lockdown has locked people into their houses. They feel,
Yeah.
and I get it. I mean, in the beginning of lockdown, we weren't allowed to physically leave our houses.
Yeah.
So the stress of being in an environment with other people that I don't want to say you're not comfortable to, because invariably you're probably married to that person or you're a life partner with that person.
Yeah,
But
but you don't see your partner 24/7 in normal life, except when they
yes,
suddenly now work from home and so do you. And you have
yes,
to designate spaces to be, to be in for the next 8 hours without being on top of each other, kind of thing. And while dealing with all of your external work, because it's not like we're not working on the things that come from outside. It's
yeah, and then
bringing in to home those things.
it's also really challenging, especially for people
Yeah.
who have small spaces.
Mm,
So, and then you've got the kids at home, and kids are noisy, and kids are loud, and kids are running around, and you trying to work because you know what, you're working from home, so you've got the admin to do or whatever. So stress is the one,
yeah,
and also the fact that this has gone on for so long. I mean, it's gone
of
on for
course.
more than 9 months.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's a lot to deal with, and we haven't been taught. Like Dr.
yeah,
Dewey, who is the author of the kinesiology that I studied, he said that the brain is the most fantastic biocomputer. There is nothing we can man make that will ever come close to how quick and how fantastic our brain is able to process the energy.
yeah,
One of its downfalls, though, is that it has been programmed by a 3-year-old. Because in the first 7 years of our life, we only have a subconscious mind. We don't have a conscious, and the conscious mind can distinguish between right and wrong. So
yeah.
in the first 7 years of our life, we take on everything as truth. So
Wow.
it becomes really challenging to deal with all of these external when internally you're not in a good space. So then there's lashing out and there's fighting. And I know Algoa had a big thing about gender-based violence. So
Yeah, that's
there's
apparently increased quite a bit. We spoke with Leslie and Foster a while back about that, who's from a women's rights organization. And there is really a growth in that because, of course, like you say, this period is also very fear driven. People are frustrated. People are feeling a lot of feelings that are now, there's very little outlet for. You can't even go for a walk on the beach, like just to sort of decompress. um how is it when you are presented with that? I mean, the people that you are seeing, are they seeing fairly quick results, turnaround? What's actually happening? Because I mean, people look for hope at this time.
Yes, I agree with you, and that's what I love about the kinesiology is the quick turnaround times. Because basically kinesiology, and I'm going to use an analogy because that's going to be the easiest way to explain it.
Okay.
Kinesiology is based on ancient Chinese acupuncture. So there are pressure points in the body. We also have meridians which run on our bodies, and a
Yeah,
meridian is basically like a water pipe.
yeah,
So a water pipe becomes blocked for whatever reason. There's something in the way, so the water cannot flow through the pipe anymore. Same with the meridian. The energy is blocked, and so the energy cannot flow through the meridian. And what I do is I move those blocks out the way. So I get the water flowing. Not technically because I'm not a plumber, but I get the energy flowing in the meridian. And then once the energy is flowing, people can then release those emotions. And I always teach my clients to look for really healthy ways to release the anger, because one of the biggest emotions that comes out when they're releasing is the anger. And the anger comes from the fear.
Yeah.
And then once the anger is released and out the way, then they can look towards self-love.
Yeah, hey, self-love. Now that's become quite a buzzword at the moment. But I am a little bit scared because there's people who will be like lying there, lounging at the pool with a glass of wine, and it's like self-love, me time. And the kind of popular picture that we're being presented with of self-love, it really to me feels very much like self-indulgence, rather than actually working the inside of the person to nurture and bring out the best of you. Have you been seeing that as well? Is it my imagination, just me?
I'm laughing because I've self-indulged quite a lot in my life, going, you know what, this is me and self-love, But self-love for me, just so I can give my definition of it, self-love for me is making the healthier choices for yourself. So making the decision to leave the man that is beating you to a pulp every night, that is self-love. Making a decision not to have that drink, because alcohol just numbs our emotions and we don't deal with them. And that's why they get stuck because that is the other side of it. The subconscious lives in the body. So when you have pain in the body, that means that at that moment, when you've experienced whatever it is that was happening for you, the oxygen to that specific part of your body was depleted, and that is why the emotion got stuck in that whatever. Yes. So self-love is making the choice not to have that entire cake. It's not about not having, because having a piece of cake and having a glass of wine is, if that's your choice, then that's, whatever. I mean, you have to have some fun. You can't, it's not all just work.
Yeah.
Self-love is making the decisions for you to heal.
Making the best choices for yourself, nurturing yourself, being kind to yourself, being gentle with yourself, treating yourself with the kind of, care that you would, someone that you love, self-respect, not being self-destructive, because, it can be like, I love myself, I'm going to tell them a piece of my mind. But then the thing is like, we also have to be careful not to self-love ourselves to destruction, because there is that, and then the indulgence also needs to, or the self-love also is not self-love if it harms somebody else.
Correct. Yeah. And we also are inundated. I mean, the subconscious mind absorbs like 40 million bits of information in a day, where the conscious mind can only process 2,000. So we're overwhelmed. And so we get all these adverts, and all of these adverts are also fear-based. I mean, because we're taught to be fearful, and it's not just that we're taught it from outside. That's part of the brain. It's part of the reptile brain that exists in the skull, which we are not responsible for, but which has developed over millennia, because there was a time when it served you to be aware of the rustling of the leaves for the tiger that was going to jump out and attack you. So your very survival, your very existence on this planet depended on you being conscious of that and aware of it, which is why we've developed that. But we haven't developed the part of our brain that says, oh my word, look at that incredible sunset. Or, oh my goodness, do you see that cute little baby over there? Or whatever. We haven't developed that portion of our brain to stop and smell the roses. And so when people tell you that happiness is a choice, it is, because we have to train ourselves and we have to train our
She's
brain
so
to look
true.
for the happiness.
I want to talk about some of the compatible mindsets that are helpful in this time of starting over, because whether you've been asked to reduce the hours at work, or you no longer have that job, or you are now having to work full time at home, or whatever changes have happened or are happening due to the situation that we're all in, there's loss of control, there are frustrations, there's fear, there is a lot of change that's up in the air. What are some of the compatible mindsets that we can maybe throw out that are helpful when you are starting over?
I'm not
I'm
sure what
gonna
you mean
start while
by
you think. I'm gonna start while you think. So one of the things that I found, because of course you and I know that I'm also one of those starter overs that
yes.
yeah, anyway, so I have found that surrender to the process, surrender to what's
Ah,
happening now, and sort of letting go of the control and trusting that there is a grand plan, there is a grand design, as long as I keep breathing and keep going forward, doing the things that I'm able to do today, rather than saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do next month, when I know full well that I don't have a view of what next month is going to be like. I mean, we were just talking about how just in December, we were like, New Year's, we can't wait for 2021. And then 2021 arrives, and it's like, actually, it's pretty much 2020 reloaded, just starting from scratch with exactly what you ended with. So, like, nothing is going to change. You're going to need to make that change. So, surrender being one of them, giving up control, like giving up the micro, the commitment to the micro details of your plans working the way that you want them to work, and just handing that over to say, okay, this is the grand vision of what I would like to see, but if it doesn't all fall into exact time and place exactly as I wanted, that's okay. I'm gonna just flow with it. So that's what I'm talking about.
okay, cool. I understand that. And I actually have lived that, because with the engineering, I had no idea what I was doing, none. And so I had no choice but to surrender, like you say, and release the control. And because I did that, I was in the flow. And so everything came to me. I didn't have to go out there and get it. I didn't
Yeah.
have to, I can't even think what the other option is, but everything came my way. So I met all the civil engineers, I met all these people that were involved in the industry. I then ended up interviewing with a South African engineering firm who paid for my entire university time. Excuse me. So I was on a full bursary.
Yeah.
They then offered me work afterwards, but the industry collapsed at that time. So I went back into retail again for a little while, but then again back into the flow, because I wasn't supposed to go into civil engineering. I was supposed to go into geotechnical engineering, which is like
Mm.
literally unearthing stuff, which is what I do
Wow.
now. And then with the kinesiology, I wasn't in flow. I was going to do it on this and this time, and by this date, I
Oh
was going to have X
yeah.
amount, and by that date, I was going to have so many clients, and I was going to have done this and this and this and this, and I was controlling the whole situation. I was what Gabrielle Bernstein calls a manic manifester. And when you are manically manifesting, and when you are attempting to control the circumstances, you're actually pushing it all away.
Oh my God, how did you deal with the shame of that? Because that, like, when you like trying to manifest these things and then it's not quite happening in your timetable, it can fill you with so much shame, isn't it? It's like, maybe I'm just not good enough, maybe I'm not connecting, maybe I haven't done the shadow work, maybe this, maybe that. It's like there's so many maybes. How did you deal with that?
Forgiveness,
Oh yeah.
the F word. We never
Yes, for
talk about
Edward. Yeah, yeah,
forgiveness,
yeah.
forgiveness of myself, because I behaved in a way, and I didn't know better, but now I do. So I forgive that.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. And this is one of the tips that I would love to leave for all of your listeners today. Again, coming back to the brain, this portion of our brain is called our frontal brain. And in the back over here, at the base of our skull, is the occipital. So the occipital is where our past lives. All of our past memories, our past experiences, everything. And the frontal lobe of our brain is where our creative present lives. But the other thing, why we do that whole manic control, manic manifesting and that controlling and everything is because we do what we know, and that is our past.
And there's fear there.
Absolutely.
There's also fear there. There's like this whole, a lot of times pressure comes with a sense of instability, of not knowing what's going to happen and being fearful on some level. And when you are fearful, you're just like, I want it and I want it now. And you're like tantrums of a 2-year-old.
There's that 3-year-old. I want it now. There's your 3-year-old.
Yes.
And so stepping into kinesiology and then creating my own business, and I don't call myself a kinesiologist. I call myself a transformation consultant because I transform people's lives. And I just use kinesiology as my superpower to do it.
It's just so funny how you do the eyes of ooh.
Yeah. Somebody told me the other day I was practicing voodoo. Because they don't understand the kinesiology.
Yeah.
But it really is so fun.
Yeah.
So sorry, quickly, just my point about living in the past, and then also we worry about the future.
Yes.
So there's also the fear there, because we only know how to find solutions based on our past. So if you do, and this is a technique I use in kinesiology quite a lot, I find it very powerful. You just put your hand on the base of your skull and the hand on your forehead. And what this does in that very, very stressful moment that you're experiencing.
Does it matter which hand?
No.
Okay.
It connects your occipital brain with your frontal lobe, right?
Yeah.
So it's connecting your past with your creative present.
Wow.
And so it helps you. So it's connecting the back and the front of your brain by doing this. It then helps you to come up with more creative solutions to the challenge that you're facing, and you don't dig into your past to look for a solution. So you come up with a creative new solution.
Incredible.
The second thing that it does is it brings the blood back up to the brain, because in stress mode, stress, fight, flight, freeze mode, 80% of the blood drains from the brain because it's going to the extremities, because you're getting ready to fight or you're getting ready to run. So when you do this, you're instructing the blood to come back up to the brain. So when there's more blood flowing through your brain, there's more clarity. And then the last thing it does is it stops the cortisol. It says to the cortisol, you know what, calm down. You're not needed. Because cortisol is the stress hormone that floods our body when we're in stress.
Wow. That is amazing. Okay, so yeah, we've been in lockdown. I'm loving this whole thing. Like, I just feel like there's so much we got to discuss. We've been in lockdown, and you mentioned something about doing some work within yourself as well and stuff, and coming to the place where you are able to be present for healing for others. I so appreciate that. I want you to share with us how to get a hold of you and things like that. You have a page on Facebook, don't you?
I do. It's Kelly Inspired Personal Development. And then I also have a website, which is Inspired Personal Development. Okay. So it's www.inspiredpersonaldevelopment.co.za.
Be sure to comment on this video with that link. What just popped into your head? I just saw your lights come on for a second. What happened?
No, I was just going to say, and I have a phone. So you can contact me via WhatsApp. But I'll put all my details on your page.
Yes, please do.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Cool. Thank you so much for visiting with us for this little bit. It's been quite fantastic catching up with you. And do you have any last words you want to tell people? I know you've said what things we can do and whatnot.
You know, I found it really interesting. Quickly, I was introduced to the work of Dr. Robert Anthony about 14 years ago. Okay. And he had a whole list of stuff that worked and didn't work and stuff like that. And the last thing he said was, choose to feel good in every moment. It doesn't matter. Look for the feeling that makes you feel good.
I love
Do
that.
what you need to do to get out of that funky, frumpy mood. Go and jump on your mattress like a 3-year-old if you have to. Put on some funky 80s music, and 80s is the genre for me that works, not 21. Put on some funky 80s music and dance your ass off. You know, and just get out of your head and just get into your body and just move.
Absolutely.
And look for the feeling that makes you feel better about yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I love those words.
Always.
I love those words. Don't forget to dance. Thank you so much for being with us. This has been the Soul Dive. My name is Lebo. Thank you so much for tuning in. We shall see you again soon. Oh,